All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Randy Meisner, a guy who is loved by so many fans. And if you didn't know about his band Black Tie, you should check it out. Pretty cool. I mean, I've known about Black Tie for a while, but I'm not sure a lot of people do. Black Tie was an American country supergroup formed by Jimmy Griffin. If you know who Jimmy Griffin was, the late, great Jimmy Griffin, he was part of the band Bread. Also, Randy Meisner and Billy Swan, I Can Help, if you remember that song. Really interesting band that had a lot of potential. The group's first album was called When the Night Falls, was produced by Reggie Fisher, and released on LP in 1985 by Bench Records. Then it was reissued on CD in 1990, and then the band recorded new versions of two songs from the album, Learning the Game, a cover of a Buddy Holly song, and Chain Gang, a cover of a Sam Cooke song. These tracks were released as a single, and Learning the Game reached number 59. On the Billboard Hot Country Singles charts. And that's pretty cool. You know, if you listen to the record, it actually sounds, it's like a precursor to what would happen in the 90s as far as 90s country. It's got that kind of sound. Randy's voice is there, but this is a real blend. This is kind of a little bit of a super group here. And if you look again at some of the other information about Black Tie, it's just kind of sad that this never really took off. Randy was not really a guy who liked the fame, who liked the spotlight, and maybe that's one of the reasons initially he wasn't asked to come back, because, you know, he had left the band, and when the band broke up, you know, there was a certain membership at that point, which was, you know, Fry, Henley, Don Felder, Joe Walsh, and Tim Schmidt. So, you know, when the Eagles got back together again, there was really no reason for them to bring Randy Meisner back, but Randy was still singing, he was still performing. Black Tie, obviously at the end of the 80s, if you remember, he also got back with Poco for their Legacy album, where they brought back, I think, everybody from the original Poco lineup. And that was a kind of a big hit album for Poco. And maybe, you know, Randy was happy with that anyway. We will never know. It just seems that the band, during the late 70s, Meisner probably didn't like the fighting. He didn't like the spotlight so much. He was struggling singing his signature song because there was a lot of pressure on him to do that. And it really changed his trajectory, like where he would end up and what he would do. Black Tie is this unassuming group, which just kind of flew right under the radar. The weird thing is about Black Tie is they would go on to make another album. And not only that, there was this other project called Meisner, Swan, and Rich. Now that's Charlie Rich's son, Charlie Rich Jr., and they released music, and that actually has kind of a very early Eagles sound to it, like the first couple of Eagles albums. It's called The Eagle, the Dove, and the Gold, which is a reference to Meisner being the eagle, Swan being the dove, and Rich meaning gold and rich, how that works. Kind of a play on their names and so forth. But in 2006, a 3-song EP was released as Black Tie 2, with a version of the Christmas Carol Away in a Manger, which had been released to country radio as a Christmas single in the late 1980s. So if you're a huge Randy Meisner fan, you ought to check out Black Tie and the offspring of Black Tie. And again, Jimmy Griffin, who never really got his recognition when he was in Bread, because he was not David Gates. And David Gates, he was the guy. And, you know, you can't really fault the record label for just, you know, showcasing David Gates, because he was kind of a brilliant singer and songwriter. But Jimmy Griffin had his own sound, and it wasn't as adult contemporary. It was more country rock, and obviously he found a home with Black Tie briefly, but again, never really found the fame and fortune that he probably deserved, or at least the recognition he deserved as a performer and solo artist. So there you have it, Black Tie. Interesting stuff. A little piece of rock and roll history that goes off on its own little tributary. And if you're a Randy Meisner fan or a Jimmy Griffin fan or a Billy Swan fan, that's something you might want to check out. All right, I'm done. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and don't forget about Patreon. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Patreon. You can join up for $1 a month and help keep this channel financially solvent for years to come. All right, see you soon.